Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've got a mail here and a conversation I had with someone at a comic shop yesterday. And they kind of both fold together. So I want to relay both to you and have you guys give me your thoughts on it. So I'll first talk about the comic shop. Now, you know what? First, I'm actually going to read the mail. That's what I'm going to do. Dear Perch, I'm curious what you think of how the anti woke, that's in quotes, movement has evolved. Full disclosure, 5 years ago, I was a big proponent of this. I saw that comics had turned very preachy and seemed to be constantly pushing an agenda over superhero conflicts. Many of the writers talked about the moments they were putting out related to LGBTQ rights, Palestine, and other causes, as opposed to what was actually going on in their comic. I got sick of it. I started listening to a lot of YouTube channels. I started pointing out where comics had gone, this is in quotes, woke. For a period of time, it felt like anti woke, in quotes, meant quality. But it doesn't mean that anymore. Many, quote, anti woke, quote, have become as bad as what they opposed. Now, if a new video game features a woman and she doesn't look like a stripper from a 90s image comic, it's woke. Then you have the sex negative anti wokes who will label any sexy female design as porn because they claim to be bothered by it. Just like, quote, the woke lost whatever point they were making by decrying every sexy female or white character in games, the anti woke lost whatever point they were making by either doing the same or by shouting woke if a female isn't sexy enough. And by sexy enough, I mean naked, even if she's an original character and has no reason to look that way. Many of the anti woke people will point to manga, but when you have a conversation with them, it becomes incredibly clear that they don't read manga at all and are more or less just interested in either making fun of American creators or looking at manga titties. If games like Metroid and Tomb Raider debuted today, they'd be hated by both sides, or only supported because hot chick equals buy game. And forget anything else like gameplay. There are actual female gamers like myself who scream internally and both claim to know what I need and want in a fictional person, when really what I want is very simple from my games and comics. I want to enjoy myself. The end. What what do you think? I like I like it when people who write letters put the end. It's I don't know, there's something cute about that. Charming anyway. All right. Um, so that's the mail. Now the conversation that I had in the shop. I was uh, I was talking to this guy. We are talking about kind of orders, and mainly, I'm an X-Men fan. I have a lot of the X-Men comics. I was asking him like, so my hypothesis here is, we just debuted this, the time after Krakoa, and how's it going? Is it better, sales worse? And his basic comment was sales are worse. Actually worse than they were at Krakoa. A couple titles are doing better, but the majority of titles are actually doing worse than when they were in the Krakoa era. And then he made the comment, feels like they doubled down on woke. And I was a little bit surprised that he used that expression for a variety of reasons. If I'm portraying this shop, and this will I'm going to give you a little segue of why I thought the way I thought, but then we'll come back to it. It's in a blue area of Dallas. By that I mean there are a big portion of pride flags. It is a gay friendly community. And it's a more when you think of Texas, a lot of people think cowboy hats and Republicans, but to the contrary, there are definitely blue districts and blue counties and all the rest. And for that matter, keep in mind if you're coming to Texas and you're going to any metro area, you're not going to, right wing hillbilly central. If you go out into the country, I'm sure that's what you get. But, it's most of the metro areas actually vote blue. Between Austin, Houston, Dallas, heavy blue communities, San Antonio has a definitely Democrat. Anyway, so this comic shop is definitely centered there, and I happen to know this comic owner is really dislikes Trump and is not a Republican by any stretch of the imagination. So I was surprised to hear the woke comment, and then I said so. I'm like, I'm surprised. I would think I made some comment like I think your clientele votes Democrat. And he looks at me like I'm stupid, and which is fair, and goes, woke doesn't mean Democrat. Woke means pandering. Woke means, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He said it in a less eloquent way than I'm saying it now, but he was like, woke means preaching at me. He's like, a lot of the, churchy areas in Texas are super woke because they won't shut up and just let me lead my life. So I thought about it for a moment, and then it's kind of the pill you take on social media because people have attached the woke, anti-woke to left wing, right wing, and in reality, I like his. I don't know if the masses think about it this same way, but I thought that was an interesting way of looking at it because in some ways it breaks down the difficulties and challenges I've had with kind of this whole, woke, anti-woke kind of nonsense. I don't like being pandered to either. I don't like being spoon-fed stuff. I don't like it when I'm reading an issue of the Ultimates and by the way, I'm driving here and sure enough, while the politics aren't that way, sure enough, here's Texas and a guy is in his truck and he apparently is frustrated by the gridlock of this road. We're over here on good old 30. And he has decided to just drive into the median, which is grass, to just turn around and go the other direction. This is a highway. There is there's no path here. He's in his truck and plus his median has a dip to it. It's not like it's and he's just plowing through. I saw somebody do this and get stuck in the middle. It was freaking hilarious. Anyway, all right. Sorry for that little segue. The driving around here always never fails to amaze me. Anyway, I always hated it when you're reading an issue of a comic and you can't help but be transported out of it because the writer is kind of simultaneously doing two things. They're making the character sound in a way that is nothing like their character. It would be like if somebody started writing Wolverine with a British accent. Do you remember that Astonishing X-Men? And you had Joss Whedon was writing that, and Wolverine gets screwed up in the head. I think Sandra Nova messes with him, and he turns into like a pansy. He kind of gets reverted to his origin character. He's like, oh gosh, I sure hope there isn't violence. And it was fun. It worked when Joss Whedon did that because he was intentionally trying to show that Wolverine was not himself. He'd been messed up. But you get these characters in comics where they suddenly give weird little speeches that are 100% clear they're coming out of the writer's mouth and not the character's mouth. And it's not enjoyable. It breaks the illusion of comics. It's bad. The other thing is when you get kind of weird little politics inserted into comics for no apparent reason. What was that issue? I think it was Angela, where you had the guy like, she's talking, I think, man, somebody from Asgard or anyway. I don't remember the exact setup. But anyway, the guy's screaming at her. He's like, rah, 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 something about Palestine, And it was just it was clearly the politics of the writer being inserted into this. And I think some writers defend this by like, well, I'm the writer. I should, people want to know my politics. And the answer is no, they don't. But politics is the red herring here. It doesn't need to be just politics. It's just preaching at the reader. It's the reader who's trying to, who bought this thing, wants to be entertained by it. And they're getting suddenly a very special episode on a cause that the writer or the creator likes. I play through the Spider-Man games on my PlayStation. I enjoy them. I like the controls. I generally like them. However, I agree. I can't help but notice that there's side missions here which feel more like an after school special, and they're frustrating to me. I to be clear, when you're playing the Spider-Man game, it's kind of an open world game. You can be all around New York, and sometimes you're swinging by and there's a pride flag on a building. And I watched people online, the anti woke crowd, lose their shit over this. Why is this there? This is but if you go to New York and you walk around, you will see a pride flag, being flown in certain districts and the other places too. It doesn't bother me that there's a pride flag in the Spider-Man game because in real life, it exists there too. What does bother me is if I'm forced to do a mission, basically I'm doing something and the mission kind of interrupts itself to want to teach me about trans rights. And to be clear, I trans people, I want everybody just kind of, have a good life, live their life, be able to do what they want to do. I don't think trans people need to vanish off the planet. I've enjoyed, I, I mean, I don't like that I come back to this example a lot, but it's one that, it's a comic channel and you've been listening to this channel. I interviewed Rachel Pollack. I liked Rachel Pollack. I liked her work. I liked what she did. I liked the passion she put in. I liked the character she created. And when I got to interview her, it was wonderful. There was this really thoughtful, really kind of cool person. And so why would I not want that person to live their life? Of course, she should have a great life. I was sad when she passed. So I mean, it's no problem with that, but I would have the same problem if I'm playing Spider-Man, the video game, and the game interrupts itself to talk about, I don't know, anything that didn't have to do with the game. Like I'm playing around and my mission takes me to a gym and for some reason the game decides to take a detour and do a long speech on why women shouldn't be filming themselves in the gym or why they should be allowed to. It has nothing to do with Spider-Man. It's just weird. Don't don't put that into the game. To me, that's the woke, anti-woke kind of side of things. It's look, I don't want to be pandered to. I don't want to be preached to. I don't want the entertainment I have to get interrupted with silly nonsense that appears to be completely about something else. I don't want, I don't want the topic that I'm being pandered to on to vanish, to not exist. You will never see me out there kind of arguing that, but let's remove gay marriage. To the contrary. I said I've had friends who are gay. I hope they do get married one day. It's a wonderful thing to get married and have that kind of bond and that stability in life. And I think it's good. I think if you're, the problem is in comics and in games, those messages come across as overbearing. The topics aren't the problem. It's how they're presented, which is why, and I know I've done this in other videos, and I did a video talking about this, and it was one of the ones that got EFAP'd the most. People just hated it. The two topics that people seem to get really pissed off about me for, and then want to do a lot of commentary on it, is when I say comic creators should be paid more. God, that pisses people off, and I don't get, unless you're just a spiteful douche, I don't get why. Okay, it doesn't mean you're going to take crap people and pay them more. It means put more money into the system and you'll get better results, i.e. capitalism. Got a bunch of socialists after me. Anyway, the other one, I don't know. You know what? Just screw it. Look, I just, for me, the definition, and I appreciate the conversation at the comic store, appreciate the mail. I just want to be entertained. And to me, a lot of the kind of both woke and anti-woke, the people who are really kind of down the rabbit hole with that philosophy, those ideologies, those movements, they tend to produce stuff that's not entertaining, or they don't produce stuff at all. They're just too busy talking about woke topics or anti woke topics, and they forgot that they actually need to produce anything other than angry rants about those things. I mean, do you have something to offer, or is your offer more preaching, more sermon at me? I don't really care for that. The challenge with comics, if you go back to, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, the problem I have, which again may be different for you, is that they weren't fun. They weren't entertaining. Some were, not all of them. Nothing is black and white like that. But the more they preached, the less they actually were fun to read. The creators who were doing it weren't good at it. They actually just weren't good at, you know, putting that stuff out. They were in many ways they were self-defeating because they were creating such unimaginative kind of nonsense that it wasn't fun to read. So there were no swaying any hearts and minds because it just wasn't good. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting perspective about it, and for what it's worth, I kind of agree with both points. I think that somewhere along the line we lost the plot of this should be fun to read, this should be entertaining, and we got very hung up with this is saying this is saying that. I mean, yeah, I do agree. There is people who will. I get plenty of mail. You see plenty of comments. It's like her tits weren't big enough, and it's like, God. I mean, I. It's just I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if that truly is your primary concern, good news. There is literally the internet. You can find what you want. If that is your primary concern. My primary concern is entertainment. The end. The end. There you go. Thanks for listening.